Hello everybody, welcome back to another session of the Hopry. My name is Mark Starr, and today we are going to be looking at a beer from Goose Island. This is called their Night Stalker. It is a Imperial Stout that clocks in at about 11.7, almost 12%, so it's a pretty big Imperial Stout. The thing that makes this one so interesting is that it's virtually the Bourbon County Stout without the aging of the barrels that they put it in. So instead of adding that bourbon barrel quality to it, or that bourbon barrel component to it, I should say, what they do is replace it with a lot of hops. Now they only use two types of hops in this. They use Mount Hood hops, which are kind of known to give a beer like an earthiness or a spiciness, and then also they use Simcoe hops, which will give it more of a piney citric character. So really interested to see how this one tastes and how it kind of I guess bounces up against the Bourbon County Stout. Now the name Night Stalker does not come from the serial killer Richard Ramirez like you might think. It's actually named after a TV show that was around in the early 70s called Night Stalker. Now I was only about 3 when that came out, so I really never watched the show, so I'm not sure really what the tie-in is there, but hey, who cares? It's a Goose Island Stout, and I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. So what else? Wanted to point out as well that when you buy a beer like this, now this one was bottled on February 19th of this year. They do say on their website that you can age these for up to 5 years. So 2015, you can enjoy these anytime between now and then. A lot of these Imperial Stouts, I want to make sure that you guys know that the longer you hold on to them, usually the more they will mellow out in terms of alcohol. And again, this was up there around 12%, so I imagine it's going to be pretty hot. But anyway, let these sit for a while. Alrighty. So immediately, it looks like an Imperial Stout should look. It's got that, nice dark black color. Getting a pretty nice amount of that really nice dark tan colored head. And the bubbles on it are really tight, so I like that. That means, it's a good consistent beer. That means the head will generally hang around a little bit longer than your bubbles that are bigger. Those tend to dissipate pretty quickly. But, yeah, I can't see through this one at all. Even around the edges, I mean, there's not a whole lot of color. Normally from an Imperial Stout, you might see like a dark ruby red or even a rich raisin color. But this one's virtually black through and through. So let's go ahead and get our nose in there and see how it smells. Okay, so right away on the nose, I'm getting a lot of caramel. Oddly enough as well, I get a little bit of oakiness in here, like not a bourbon barrel quality, but almost like it was aged in just pure oak. Now I know it's not, but I'm still kind of picking that up. I am pulling a little bit of spiciness from those hops, and I'm assuming that that's coming more from the Mount Hood hops as opposed to the Simcoe hops, which would give it more of a, I guess, a citric component, which I think maybe those have kind of died out since this one's been around about 5-6 months now. I'm also getting this really interesting like dark cave component, like you're in a really dark moist cave, and there's also a little bit of grassiness in there, which again is probably coming from that hop character, but really an interesting nose. Let's go ahead and see how it tastes though. So right off the bat, there's a lot of caramel in this, and I would say also a pretty good amount of booziness. This one, even though it's only 5 months old, I think it's still pretty young, and I think over time it's really going to kind of mellow out a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of espresso bitterness as well, not so much of a coffee flavor, but more of the bitterness that you would get from that. There's this really interesting component of this beer that I haven't had too many times in an Imperial Stout. But this one really has a sort of meaty quality, and also like maybe some mushrooms. I'm thinking like, like a darker mushroom, like a cremini mushroom or a portobello. There's a real sort of real mushroom and meaty, almost like a steak sauce sort of character going on in here. Really kind of complex though. It's got good mouthfeel, maybe a little bit thinner than I thought it would be. I guess I expected it to be a lot more chewy at 11.7%, but actually that doesn't mean that it's too thin. I actually really like the I like the mouthfeel on this one, and I'm really intrigued by this mushroom and meaty character that's coming out of it. It really gives it kind of an interesting taste. So, you really have it, it's kind of like a cave and a steak and mushrooms, and even just saying that makes me think that this screams a really nice big steak. So, if you come home and it's fall and, say you're going to throw a couple ribeyes on the grill, maybe grill up some mushrooms to put on top of that, I think that this would probably go exceptionally well with that. It's actually making me hungry. I haven't eaten dinner in probably 3 or 4 hours, and the thought of a big steak right now, man, it just sounds really, really good. Overall, though, I think this is a really good beer from Goose Island. I would say, the Bourbon County Stout with about 2 years on it is still really more my thing. I don't get a ton of hoppiness out of this, though I can tell it's in there. I like that it gives it a bit of a different character, more of the grassy, cave-like bitterness, and kind of stays away from more of the, really high citrus IPA type hops. But anyway, really good beer. I'm going to go ahead and end it now and finish off the rest of this bottle. May drink a little bit more of it tomorrow. I know my wife will want some. She's into stouts. But anyway, you can always follow me on Twitter. Go to twitter.com/thehopry and follow me on my website, always, thehopry.com. You get more from my website than YouTube. I always post music. I give you links to the beers, other beers, etc. And one thing that I'm looking to start going forward to is kind of a recommended if you like section. So, in the case of something like this, I think if you like, like a Bell's Expedition Stout, even a 1050, you'll really kind of like this beer. It kind of situates itself within there. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming back. And my name is Mark Starr, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.